When you start using Envizia, one of the easiest places to approach the system is through text to render. It doesn't require any inputs beyond a prompt, so that's what we're going to look at now. But it can also be a little bit confusing because we also have this chat area, which is another way of interacting with the AI system to produce or alter images through a chat interface. So I'm going to kind of show you the difference between this chat and between the text to render function. So you can think of this text to render as a way of just testing out ideas. So let's say that we're wanting to explore a simple house design and we don't really have any images up front, but we just have an idea in our mind. So let's do this. Let's come over and just put in a prompt. So let's say I've created a prompt that says a small house with a modern look. It has a simple A-frame look like a modern Scandinavian house. It has black trim, a red front door, and vertical wood slats on the side of the walls. The outside is a burnt yellow exterior paint, and then I just go on to describe some of the outside. So just some generalities. And that's a really good starting point. In this particular case, I want to use 16 by 9, and I want to make sure I'm using a wide orientation, and then we'll go ahead and generate and see what it gives us. And there we go. So let's take a look at some other ideas. I mean, let's just let it generate a series of ideas for us until we find something that we think is really the one that grabs us. Here's the next idea, and let's just look at one more. Okay, so there's one more idea. One of the things that you're going to learn is that the more specific that you get in your prompts and the more detailed those prompts become, is the better the generations are actually going to become. So let's come over here and let's put in another prompt where I've added, in addition to what we just had, tall glass floor to ceiling windows. So we're going to start to give it a little bit more specific direction. And let's let it generate that. So there you go. So you can see it's starting to incorporate some of those designs. Let's come down and add one more. Let's type in 3/4 view. So you can also start describing how you want the view. So let's do another generation. So that's what it's done for us when we gave it just a little bit more specifics. So let's go ahead and jump one more level in terms of specificity. So let's paste in one that has a lot more description. So we're going to kind of start off in a simple way that we had done before. But in addition, I'm going to say a wooden porch surrounds the front of the house and is cantilevered over the sloping hill the house is on. A wooden railing with yellow paint matching the house is along the edge of the rails. The front yard is a sloping hillside with green grass with a few trees around the alpine mountains in the background. Large boulders and rocks are around the base of the house. So you can see I'm being more and more specific in my direction, and let's see what it gives us now. Okay, so there we go. So let's also come in here and add in 3/4 view and do one more to get another idea, or maybe a couple more ideas. It's always a good idea just to see what potentials it can give us. There we go. I like that one. Let's do another. So it's giving me these ideas. Let's add one more level here, and let's say early evening and the sun is setting. It's golden hour and the sun is casting a beautiful warm glow as it sets. So you can also direct these time of days in your direction. And there we go. Okay, so let's say now that we want to take one of these and we like the design, but we want to maybe change the color. So I've used this burnt orange yellow color, but maybe we want to try a couple of different colors. This is where we could switch over to chat to do that. So you just want to think about text to render as being just generating a new image from scratch. But let's come over to chat now because it can seem pretty similar. let's come down here to the little circle with the plus in it, and we're going to select a previous image. So let's say of all the generations, we come back and we find the one that we kind of like. Let's confirm that. And then let's say that we want to test the color. So change the color of the house from the yellow orange color to a light muted olive green color. Maintain the background as it is. Okay, so I want kind of everything else to stay the same, and I'm going to come down and choose flux. Now, here's one of the things about chat is that you get direct access to 4 different models in addition to letting it sort of decide based on your prompt. So you can use Nano Banana, Nano Banana Pro, GPT Image, or Flux. Flux is generally what's being used across the system in the background. So we're just going to go ahead and use Flux, and then you enter it and it'll start thinking about it. But this is interactive, whereas the text to render isn't interactive. This system is interactive. And there we go. So you can just play with color variations based on this. So we could come over here to compare and we could look. There's just a slight perspective change, but it generally maintained the image the way it is, so I could test out variations like this. But there's also another way that we could do this. So let's do something different. Let's say that we have a specific color we would like to try on the house, as opposed to kind of letting it interpret what we're describing. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to again tell it which of these I want to use as the reference so that we're really being very specific with it. And then I'm going to upload a specific color that I already have. So I've created a color swatch and we're going to let it reference that. Change the yellow-orange color of the house to match the light blue color swatch I've uploaded. Maintain the background as it is, and then let's see what it gives us. And there we go. So that's just another avenue you have for testing out ideas. And this is why the chat is a little bit more freeform. Now, you can also come over here and specifically give it directions. Like I could have taken the prompts that I had used in the text to render and just given it directly to this. But when we come back over here to text to render in the create menu, it gives us the specific ability to give it the orientation, so horizontal or vertical, and the exact aspect ratio of the image that we want. And then we can also add references to it. So for instance, let's say that we know of a house. We've got a photograph of a house that we really like. It's got some elements and we're struggling to maybe come up with a description of it. We can come over to add reference right here. Let's upload that reference image. So let's say that we have a house right here and we really like it. We'd maybe like it to pull some influence from this to our description. We'll go ahead and upload that. And then we just have to set the reference strength. And I'm going to leave it about 42%, and then we'll generate. So it's going to use this reference in addition to our description, our prompt. And there we go. So it's easy to come over and just play with the reference strength to give yourself different ideas. So let's go over and look at the chat, and I'll show you one more potential thing you can do with chat that you can't do with text to render. So let's say our desire is to actually go into a 3D application and generate an actual 3D model, because we're just using this for idea generation. So let's say that we come down and we take a look at our previous generations and we look at one here and we say, I'm really liking this. Maybe this is the one that I'm going to want to use as the foundation for my 3D model. And I'd also like to generate some textures that I can use for that 3D model. So we're going to come over back to chat, and let's, in a new chat here, we're going to select from a previous creation, And let's just come down until we find this particular image that we had. And we're going to give it a description of what we want. The lower walls of the house use a stone pattern. Can you create a 2D stone texture that is seamless and repeating that I can use as a texture map in my 3D program from this stone pattern on the lower walls? Now, in this particular case, I'm going to use Nano Banana Pro. It's the best at doing this specific operation. And then we'll enter that and let it get to work. And there we go. So now it has generated this seamless texture that we'll be able to use in our 3D application as a texture map. And then finally, there's another really cool area that just the basic chat can help us with. So let's come back over here and reselect the image that we want to do some work on. Let's say that we have this image here, and we want to generate a different view. Let's say that we want to show me a different angle and view. Move the view much closer to the house towards the front entrance. I'm going to use Flux because that's the same model that it was generated with, and it'll also maintain the aspect ratio. And we let it think about that. And there we go. So this is one of the other areas that this chat function can really be useful at, is just allowing you to generate different but consistent views of one of your generations.